What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916 getting down with Fresh Out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share the channel, and wash your ass. Go to freshoutseries.com and pick you up some merch. I'm here with Hector Bravo. Worked in the Department of Corrections, and we about to get into it and kick some game. Hector, man, working in the Department of Corrections, man, I know there's a lot of bullshit. And, you know, you hear a lot of people on social media saying things that ain't true. What was your experience like working with the Department of Corrections, and who really runs the prison? You know, you hear a lot of guys, felons get out and telling stories, man, but you know from being in there, like, who runs shit?
All right, man. So I got in 2006. It was a little different back then compared to how it is now. A lot of things changed, policies changed, politics changed, different people in charge. I think at one point it used to be ran a certain way, and now, like, officers are not running anything. That's right off the bat. Okay, right off the bat, they're not running anything. They're just kind of operating on a day-to-day basis. I mean, they're handling their business, but they gotta, they're answering to somebody, and they're following some ridiculous rules too. I'm able to speak out on this now.
Yeah.
And you got the inmate population. They got their own set of rules. They got their own organizations. They got their own, cars, factions that they move with, and they got their thing going, making money, doing their thing. And they're kind of at the mercy, too, of administration. Administration being the higher-ups, the managers. So who kind of really runs it now? Probably the politicians and or the administrators up in headquarters, Sacramento.
The people who come through and visit, when they come through, everybody stand around by the kitchen, and
Yeah.
they got the suits on,
Yep.
and this and that, and they clean up the units and serve a good meal for that day, chicken and, or some damn hamburgers and French fries. I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I seen that shit. I know, like, when I was in Long Park USP, the warden there, he was a gangster, man.
Was he?
They call it, they had the Cowboys. You go through there, man, and if you was out of pocket, them dudes are, they weren't playing no games. So I know they ran their own thing, and, every prison had its own internal cliques within, the administration, and then, like you said, the inmates are running certain things. I know in, like, certain parts of the country, you have a certain demographic, and maybe, this one demographic controls more of the prison because of, usually it's the drugs.
Yeah.
And that's the big determining factor, because who controls the drugs, which is making money, and then you get favors.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Well, like, I was in Southern California, Centinela State Prison and Donovan, RJD. So I'm kind of, I don't want to say biased, but I only have one experience, and that's Southern California.
Yeah.
You got Southern Hispanics down there. You
That's
have
right.
no Northerners.
No.
That's zero.
Yeah, exactly.
Zero Bulldogs.
Yeah.
So I only dealt with a certain group or groups, right? So yeah, there was definitely the ones making money. In the beginning, it was kind of like only one certain group was and then now it's kind of just everybody's getting it.
Free for all.
Everybody's getting it. It's not like, it's not hard. They're doing it.
Yeah.
They're doing
Yeah, because I
it.
know it used to be typically like one particular clique would kind of disperse it among everybody else, and then like everybody kind of, now it's like you're saying there's this competition. Even inside there, it's crazy, huh?
Yeah, I don't know how else to say it, but like business is good, I guess you can say. And you got new technology too. You got drones that are literally dropping hollowed out footballs in the middle of the yard at nighttime.
Yeah.
And if we don't catch it, but sometimes we do. They'll get like fake rocks. They'll get like probably Elmer's glue and roll it around in the dirt, and then like the whole thing's full of, full of what it's full of.
Yeah.
The different races, they have their own rules as far as don't deal with other races, and that's kind of makes sense along the lines of you don't want to get yourself in a jam.
Yeah. Put your whole car or people in a situation.
It can get ugly.
Yeah. I know, it's, beyond the, the physical situation, like in prison, you got to, handle your business and stuff, but I always say the racism in prison, that a person's dealing with. If you haven't dealt with like somebody from, who's Mexican or Hispanic on the street or white, then, if that's your first perception, it's going to be a horrible perception. I grew up in the Bay Area, Filipino, my best friend's Mexican. I go there, I would have tamales, I'd have, certain dishes his mom would make for me. I go my white friend's house, have pancakes. My Filipino friends have lumpia. So I grew up in a multicultural. So people used to trip off of me, in the feds, which is different than the state, because I'd be talking to dudes like, man, what are you talking to him about? Like, I ain't gonna lie, I was down, like, my cell was right next to like some Southern dudes, some Serrano dudes, and they would, say a little words in here, but not too much, but, at a cool, like, hey, what's up, man? I see you do your business, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, hey, man, what you doing talking to them?
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It's like, damn, man. I mean, they keep us so we already locked up.
Right.
But you can't even talk like, you can't, like a Southern, in Northern California it's different, but like, you can't even talk to a Southern dude from Mexico, if he's Mexican, because you can't, this is that thing.
Yeah, they got those rules. Different prisons, different yards, though I did see a mixture of different things. I did see two different races playing sports, which at one point that would have caught me off guard, or,
Oh, I mean, but the teams were mixed, or they were playing against each other?
Like teams, like mixed teams.
Okay.
But still, even that, prior to me watching that, I had never seen that or heard of that before.
Yeah.
So things have changed, right? And then they got a peace treaty going on currently that has held down.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's a good thing when you can have guys come together, because at the end of the day, you guys are both being oppressed, and we both have more in common than you think. But, I just know, and I try to stay out of the mix. So, I knew shit was going on in prison when I was there, but I wasn't trying to get into once you start getting, you touch some drugs, dude, you get involved in that circle. So this dude. Now, you were with him when he picked it up. It's a whole nother animal.
Right.
Whole nother animal. So I stayed away from that, but I did run across a lot of guys, and they'd be like, "Hey, Herc, man, I can't message you in here, bro. We can't work out, but you cool, man. Here, hit me up when you get on the street." And it's because of the different the race issues.
I saw a lot of that, and being like I was an officer, then I promoted a sergeant and lieutenant. As I went up in the ranks, I was able to have more conversation with individuals, like just regular, man-to-man conversations. And you can tell, I mean, they wouldn't be talking too much, give up too much, because still at the end of the day, it's, cops and robbers type of deal. But they would, you can tell that they had homies like on this side, but everybody knew what time it was, kind of like an unspoken rule.
And when, the code, even though you see it in a lot of hip hop, these dudes like talking about, oh, this guy's telling that he can get back out. I know in prison, dudes find out you tell them, man, they're still pushing that line, right? They're not, are they just, oh, he told and they just let him hang out?
No, not on a GP. But the thing about California now, GPs are far and few in between.
I know, I heard it's all mixed up now.
It's almost like 75% protective custody.
Damn.
Yeah, dude, it's like, not too many.
Damn.
Not too many.
Oh, wow.
Lone wolves,
Yeah.
And but they're still pushing it.
Yeah.
Pushing it.
Yeah, because I know, like, I would see dudes and they'd be like, oh, man. And then somebody hit the yard, and you're like, damn, what happened to that dude? They checked his ass in.
Now, I mean, like I said, 2006, cell phones were not like prevalent how they are now. They were still riding little tiny kites.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Hooping them or whatever they were doing, right?
Yeah.
And the heavy individuals amongst the top of the food chain were in Pelican Bay. They were locked down. So now I saw when they got kicked out. I saw when the cell phones. So it's like instant.
A lot of them do. They're out of Pelican Bay now. I know it sends a lot of them to the feds.
Everybody has been released.
Oh shit!
From shoes. When that came down the pipe on us, on custody side, of course, you're like, man, why? What are they doing? What are they thinking? But aside from a couple major drastic, like attempted murders on peace officers, and they were big. They've kind of held down the line, if you know what I mean, keeping people in check.
Well, it's almost like I had a conversation with a guy earlier, and when you get rid of OGs, the youngsters are going wild, and they don't know the code. Like there's certain protocols, like, hey man, don't go over there and be stealing from these dudes. Don't borrow from this dude. Don't gamble over here. That way we keep the peace. But when you have youngsters and like they're just out randomly doing stupid crimes, it's like, dude, like I see it on TV. Like some of these youngsters, like the dudes I know, their little homies ain't never gonna do that because they know not to go run up in Ulta stealing cologne and
Right.
like certain G's, like it's only a certain demographic. I'm not gonna say, but what I'm talking about. But because OG's like, dude, we don't do that.
Right.
We don't get down like that,
Right.
So it's a different, and that's the thing when you have these guys, these guys who have a high level of respect, and they know that, hey man, the homie said that ain't cool.
Yeah. And when it's not cool, that's a wrap. It's not cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, prior to resigning, I talked to an OG dude. He had like a rolling 60s or something tattoo, kind of like all faded out. And I'm like, hey, rolling 60s, huh? And he's like, yeah, I used to be. I said, what happened, man? What happened to these youngsters? And he's like, man, we went away and nobody left them the playbook.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's exactly what happened, dude.
And it seems like they just, I don't know if that's by, like you said, by design, and then the fact that a lot of these guys, their kids, they weren't able to kind of be those father role models in their life too. So it's like you got 2 generations removed now of guys who just have been running wild, man. They don't have no values, because even the G's, they might have been out there, but a dude, maybe he believed in God. He had family values, took his kids to football practice. There were certain things you did, Little League, you still did stuff with your kids.
Right.
So I think that's the big change I see just among a lot of the OGs, because I know, the first thing you do, when you get to the pen, there's usually like an OG, and he's been down like 20 years, but he'll see you and he'll see where you're at, but he'll try to lace you up on something. So you're not just getting in there and getting caught up in some bullshit. He's like, hey man, let me holler at you. And I think that's like, the big thing. And when it goes back to running the pens, is like there is a hierarchy, and where young people on the street don't get it, it's like, remember you hold the door for an old lady,
still do
or when my wife walks, I walk behind her.
Correct.
You know what I mean? I sit over here so I can see danger for us, or an old person, I'll help her push her cart. I do, it's like that's what I was taught. And I remember dudes like, man, you got some manners, excuse me, pardon me, hey, there's none of that no more.
And it's sketchy, man, because it's on officer side also, green side, because it's a generational thing. What are they, Gen Z now? Not the millennials. So they don't have those communication skills. They be texting, or they be, on the computer, whatever it is. But honestly, what I saw was a very dangerous environment, as far as you have young cops that don't have that street smart communication skills. You have those young, impulsive inmates that never had that guidance of, hey, don't do this and don't do that. So when it sparks,
it's a powder keg waiting to happen.
It blows up.
Yeah.
It blows up violently, and here's why: because it's still prison, and those that remember it how it is, it's gonna still be prison.
Yeah.
You're gonna get stabbed.
What was one of the reasons why you decided it was time to go, man? You said you've seen the politics changing, man. You're like, dude, I got to do something else.
So I did total of 16. I have a 4-year-old daughter. Right? I'm pretty sure it was my daughter that changed the game for me, because I could have probably just muscled it out and just kind of been stressed and miserable for the ride it out, But I started seeing things. It had officially taken its toll, man, with COVID. The whole COVID pandemic in prison was wild, man. It wasn't handled. We had a horrible warden and a horrible administration, and that was ran like a dictatorship, and they just rained it on us, man. And good people getting their heads chopped off, good people getting fired, good people
Well, I commend you on leaving, because I used to tell people, I'm like, dude, you're getting paid, but you're locking yourself up around other people who are just miserable. Some of these dudes are miserable. I used to look at, you go out the cell, some dudes, they're just looking at you, just mad dogging for no reason, like, this dude's miserable. And it's like this a really low frequency, like bad energy, because some people, they don't know how to tune out of that. And that's one thing I used to do in there, just always meditate, to try to keep my mind free, man. And I would put a force field around myself and try to protect myself, because there's some people in there, it's like you said, it's prison. They don't care. There's nothing to lose.
Right.
This dude, he might get mad at his laundry, because then you moved his laundry bag. He had to stab a dude.
That happens.
Over a laundry bag.
Yep.
Who took my laundry out the dryer? Oh, man, it's been sitting there for 2 hours. It don't matter.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's crazy like that, man. It's like, damn, people's lives. People don't, you don't, there's no value for life, and you don't realize till you leave that, how grateful you are. Like you said, you see your daughter, see my family, man, this is not a good place, man.
Nah, very toxic, very they were putting the administration, and that's what ultimately did it, man, because I was saying this before I left, telling my partners, hey man, the inmates are not even our enemy anymore. The inmates are not even the problem anymore. It's the administration.
Wow, the politics.
And everybody understood it. Everybody was on board. Like, they could see it. Even the inmates could see it so much that they were, in some cases, backing off us because they saw the stress that we were going through.
Wow.
Through our own dealings.
That's crazy, and it took that whole thing. That exposed a lot of shit, man. This whole game, man, just exposed a lot of shit.
It's I think I'm like the first one to do this, man, like to leave like that and talk about it, because you know it's enticing when they're giving you $100,000+ a year, benefits, you know, health insurance. Ain't nobody trying to walk away from that, but I don't care. My integrity, values, and honor mean more to me than any dollar.
Yeah, well, getting your peace of mind, man.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a big thing, and you know, people. You know, during that, I mean, you have a lot of people endorsing a lot of shit for the dollar during that time. I've heard people, hey man, you want to get a bag, you know, go and say this. I mean, I heard rappers, hey, blah, blah, blah. And now you see, it's all over. You know what I mean? It's all over. Dudes is heart attacking. Dude, when have you ever heard of a little kid having heart issues? That's unheard of.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of shit coming out now, and everybody's like, oh shit, you know, we've been duped. And it's like, yeah, man, it's a big dupe.
Yeah, so like another thing that was pushing me out the door, and it was just constant, man. It was relentless, just one thing after another with the, I don't know if you ever heard of this, but the integration of the protective custody and general population inmates, mixing them together.
I heard about that. We're doing that.
They mixed them, and we were probably the first or second prison to do it on our level 1 minimum yard. And of course, it kicked off. It kicked off like we knew it would. And I was there. I was part of like the crisis response team, kind of like the SWAT team for the prison.
Yeah.
But even though I was using force and quelling the violence, I didn't feel cool. I felt like kind of dirty doing that.
It's almost like they wanted it to happen. Like, why would you do that?
They never think things through all the way. They realize that their SNY, Sensitive Need Yard program, got way out of control because, you know, now they have their own SNY gangs.
Yeah, they then clicked up. They got their own,
Two fibers and Northern Riders and stuff like this. And, I think maybe it was Sacramento's way of showing them, like, all right, you guys want to play? Cool. You guys want to still gangbang?
Yeah.
Let's do it. That's kind of, I don't see any other reason why.
Oh, man, that's crazy, man. I mean, it's like you said, an environment where you're walking. I mean, even as you're an inmate, you're already looking over your shoulder, but your guard, you don't know what's going to happen, man.
So that didn't sit right, you know, like it felt like you're setting them up. Technically, you kind of are setting them up, but I wanted just to be known that it wasn't the officers doing it or the sergeants or the lieutenants. Like, hey, we're just following orders, you know. And I had people get at me like, well, why can't you just not do it? Why can't you deny those orders? I'm like, man, because they've already bussed all these individuals to the prison. They're there. You got to put them somewhere.
You know, and it's like you talking about that. I seen what they did in the feds where you had a prison yard. Everybody was programming. They had college programs. They had concerts. And a warden come in, and there wasn't enough barbed wire. He looked around, and what he did was he brought a dude who was a shot caller from Pelican Bay to offset the balance with another clique. I'm not going to say, but then it was like, hold on. They didn't know, but after, you know, everybody finds out, like, hey, dude, he got to leave the yard. He ain't leaving the yard.
Right.
Not like that. So they purposely did that to create a riot, took the weights, put up barbed wire, took away the eggs in the week during the week, so you only had like grits. And I mean, dude, they tore the prison up. Man. They changed the whole dynamic of the prison. It became a shithole. It's like this dude, man, he came from Marion, so he had that mentality. Like, you know, dude, I don't give a fuck if these dudes eat grits and honey buns all day. You know, I don't care. There's no we're working out. You guys are having strongman competitions. You're having softball tournaments. Everybody was getting along.
Yeah.
They destroyed that.
That's what I don't understand is everybody's getting along. Just let them get along. I mean, that's the best outcome.
And they're rehabilitating.
Right.
Dudes were like doing, drug program. Dudes were like doing their thing. It was like had an indoor gymnasium and all this stuff, man. And this guy came here and he's like, oh, man, there's nothing about. And then, dude, they had barbed wire. They put barbed wire in places like you didn't even, what? It's like, what for?
Right.
Just, dude, all type of shit, man. I'm like, yeah, it was crazy, man. And I would always go through that, man. And I'd be like, man, let me just make it up out of here, man.
Yeah.
make it up out of here. It's like you said, but it's administration. And then people come, and then he sit around, and he thought he was something, blah, blah, blah. And it's like these dudes' egos, and like, I don't know if they have a political agenda behind it or what.
I have never seen egos, like narcissistic people. Like, I have never seen anything like that other than that. Like, on levels where, man, they were just cutthroat. Like, I'm telling you, they were behaving worse than the inmates.
Well, it's almost like because they're in there, like they're the shot caller. Like, so if I come in and I'm running shit over gangsters, so I'm the man. That's how the one ward he came in there because he would have like a couple of dudes behind him, like, and he would act small. I'm like, dude, you were a piece of shit.
Right.
You're smiling in my face, but
Right.
you're a piece of
Right.
shit.
See,
you just done made all the food. You took everything. Nobody was even fighting like that.
Right. See, but you get it. You get it. Everything at the end of the day comes out in the wash, right? Everything comes full circle. So yeah, one day you can be in the top, just like that you can be in the bottom, and people are always gonna remember how you treated them.
That's right.
What you did, and they're never gonna forget that. And to me, that's more valuable than any title, money. It was wild.
Well, I tell people all the time, like, dude, I see people have seen me through my channel that I never even talked to in prison. He said, hey, man, I remember you. I used to see you in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
I seen a law library dude, blah, blah, blah. Even guards, hey, man, I remember you, Big Hurt, you keep it. So I'm like, damn, so you never know. And even some dudes from the South Side, hey, man, I remember you was always reading.
Right.
So if you get on here and lie, make a bunch of shit, dude, everybody, they can check. What year were you? Where? Long Park shit, what year? There's somebody that was on that yard.
Right.
So that's the thing I tell people, man, watch how you carry yourself because you could be somewhere you never know. And a dude's like, oh, I remember that dude, man. He was on that bullshit,
For sure.
I mean, and you'd be dressed in civilian clothes. Like, hey, I recognize that dude.
Yeah.
So, you got to be careful, man, because even there, it follows you. And a lot of guys, you talking about, like you said, who runs these different prisons, got somebody get transferred and they think, oh, I'm going to change it up. But you'll be there for a while. And then somebody send notice like, hey, that dude was on the other yard doing what? And they're like, what? And now he's over here pretending like this?
So I started off at Centinela State Prison, man. That was a GP gangster prison, man. Straight gang members, right? Then I go to Donovan. That was more like mentally unstable, mentally ill. You had one GP yard there, which was good, but I instantly met a friend there, a homie. I was a sergeant there. He was a lieutenant. He kind of embraced me and took me under his wing. Man, fast forward a couple years, he was cool. He was cool with me. A lot of people would say stuff, but I wasn't seeing it then. When that warden came in, that dude just rode his coattails, got promoted to captain, started doing some grimy, dirty stuff. Like trying to get all my peers fired, accusing them of lying. And if you get caught lying in prison, you get fired if you're a staff member, because we're sworn in peace officers. And he blatantly, he went so far that I pulled him aside one time. I was a lieutenant, he was a captain, so he was my superior. And I said, hey, you need to stop what you're doing. He's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, hey, that guy isn't always going to be here. He was talking about the warden. So when he's gone, dude, you're going to be on your own. He's like, nah, I'll be good. The number 2 in command is going to take his spot. And I'm like, just that mentality. So sure enough, they bounce, right? Like I said, everything comes full circle.
Right. Yeah.
Well, this dude all of a sudden goes out, chest pains, COVID, allegedly, workman's comp, never to be seen again, right?
Wow.
And it's just that disgusting stuff. So allegedly somebody sees him out on the streets and calls him out on it. Well, that person runs back to the prison and files a complaint. So it's just like...
You can't run from it.
Yeah, it's just like no honor, no code, no.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
But needless to say, that's not my homie anymore. Not sure in the hell. I don't talk to the dude,
Yeah. Damn. Hey, there you guys have it. Big Herc 916, fresh out, getting down with Hector Bravo. Stop walking around with a crusty butt, smelly ball sack, and a funky hoo-ha. Big Herc said, wash that ass. Pick you up a t-shirt at freshoutseries.com.